In New York, this is the WB11 News at 10 with Mary Murphy, Howard Thompson, Sean Kimmerling Sports, and Joe Chaffee Weather.
A spectacular barrage of fireworks and just a little bit of a drizzle highlights a historic 4th of July weekend. Good evening. An all-American holiday ends with a big bang.
Glorious fireworks lit up the New York sky to complete America's 222nd birthday, a holiday to remember in our region and across the nation. The awesome display over the East River capped a day in which many of us had a blast.
Talk about a day at the beach. From the waves off Long Island to the Jersey Shore, area residents crowded the coast for some fun in the sun. I can't believe I ate the whole thing. That was the cry at Coney Island, where contest competitors are trying to recover from a day of championship hot dog eating. A Yankee Doodle day in the Bronx as the Bombers set a modern-day baseball record. A perfect ending to the day, if a little damp. The holiday concludes with some booms in the Big Apple as millions take in the annual Macy's fireworks display. But it's a 4th to forget for much of Florida, as residents of burning regions deal with wildfires that just won't go away.
But back here in New York, of course, we're very lucky. A glorious night, red, white, and blue, and virtually every color in the rainbow brightened the skies over the East River tonight during Macy's annual 4th of July fireworks extravaganza. Julian Phillips was in the middle of everything as millions watched, and I think he's still there. Julian, what's happening?
Well, I'll tell you, people are clearing out of here now, but there's still quite a crowd around here. This perhaps was one of the best fireworks displays Macy's ever put on, perhaps because it started to rain at the beginning, but people here are so enthusiastic. And we're talking about new shells. In fact, a couple just went off right now. Swirling tourbillons, buzzing bees, happy hearts. Well, I'll tell you, it was fantastic. 17,000 shells altogether. And if you missed the beginning of this, take a look now. We have some clips of what it looked like when all these fireworks first started off.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Well, if that wasn't enough for you, at the end of the show, many of you probably saw, there were 5,000 exploding shells. It was absolutely thunderous over here. In fact, my ears are still bad. But look, let's take another look at that. Well, as you can see, it was an absolutely wonderful show. Macy's never disappoints us. And we had a wonderful cast here. David Boreanaz, Felicia Rashad, a lot of folks from the WB lineup. It gets bigger and better every year. Now, Macy's says they will have an even bigger show next year, but we're still savoring the moment for this year. So from all of us here at the Water Club, happy birthday, America. Back to you guys in the studio.
Hey, thank you, Julian. Long before the fireworks lit up the sky, New Yorkers were getting themselves prepared to see the show any way they could. With spots in Manhattan, Queens, and Brooklyn, folks in the city had their choices of areas to view the incredible display. Robbie Chavez is live in Queens with more on how New Yorkers celebrated the day. Robbie.
Howard, nowhere close to the plush accommodations that Julian has on that side of the river here in Queens. But as they say, this location here in Queens is the bomb. Not as quite as many people here in Queens also, but that gives a lot of elbow room, and it also made for a very family-oriented day. Folks gathered here since early this afternoon, and it was a day of 4th of July festivities. It was gridlock on the FDR, not traffic, just happy 4th of Julyers, all hoping to get the best spot to watch the fireworks. It may be the only time tempers don't flare on the drive as New Yorkers celebrate America's birthday down by the riverside.
We got here around 4:35.
Why?
Want to get good seats.
Thousands came wearing the colors of the country. On the Manhattan side of the river, families gathered to look skyward, wondering what this year's spectacular fireworks show would offer. In Queens and Long Island City, it was a day of fun, complete with rides, games, and lots of good music. Not to mention an Independence Day spirit peaking with pride.
Just happy to be an American citizen, and this is a wonderful thing. My friends have been coming here for years, and this is the first time I came, and I think it's great.
Happy 4th of July, everybody. Welcome down here to the waterfront.
Many come here because it's a much more relaxed atmosphere, and it's a place where kids can have as much fun as the adults.
Why be in with, like, you know, everybody? It's like so close. Here you have freedom to walk around, and if you have kids, it's great.
Though the waters were a bit choppy today, those in boats didn't miss out on the 4th of July fun. And the fireworks just ended a short time ago, and I have to tell you, I watched the fireworks show last year from where Julian Phillips is, over there on the other side in Manhattan, and it was not as good as it was over here in Queens, because you get a very panoramic view of all the fireworks from all 4 of the barges. Taking a look now at the fireworks as they went off tonight over the river, a very nice and enjoyable event for the crowd that gathered here in Queens. And truly, as soon as the fireworks ended, folks scattered on this side of Queens. The weather held out for the most part, and now everyone is on their way home. Truly a proud day to be not only an American, but also a New Yorker. Happy 4th of July, everyone. Howard and Mary, back to you.
Thanks, Robbie. You're looking good out there.
Thank you.
From hot weather on the beach to a hot dog eating title, the holiday at Coney Island is a special part of Americana, and what goes right along with a lot of hot dogs and the ocean. A famous ride at Coney Island to make you forget all your troubles and keep on holding on for dear life. Glenn Thompson was there.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Put down your hot dogs.
A chance to eat your way into history on this 4th of July, but on this traditional American holiday, it was an invader from foreign shores who ate his way to the top. Hirofumi Nakajima retaining his title as the world hot dog eating champ for the 3rd year in a row. 19 dogs in 12 minutes, still 5 less than his record of 24.
World record holder Hirofumi Nakajima.
And that turns you on? That turns you on. Does it surprise you that Japanese are beating us at hot dogs?
Especially the size of this guy. I don't know where this guy's putting him. I think they cut out all his guts before he comes here.
Give peas a chance. Eat your veggies, not your friends.
Of course, this being New York, there were protesters who have a real beef with the contest. Thousands chose to ignore the hot dog contest and hit the beach instead, hoping to escape the heat.
I am very warm, but I'm trying to keep cool right here near the beach.
With perfect weather and a large turnout, business was booming along the boardwalk on Coney Island.
Business is very good today. We've got a lot of people out on the beach. It's nice weather, so we're happy.
And of course, no July 4th weekend will be complete without a trip on the world-famous Coney Island Cyclone. Wow!
If this cyclone isn't exactly your speed, how about a virtual reality roller coaster? Let's go for a ride. Of course, the 4th of July weekend is about kids and parents who get to drag them around in the heat.
Does it ever get, like, wear thin for you a little bit?
The crowd and the heat. It's kind of hard when the lines are long and you have to wait a long time.
But you're having a good time anyway?
All in all, this 4th of July weekend got off to a real bang.
Happy Independence Day! Hey!
On Coney Island, I'm Glenn Thompson for the WB11 News at 10.
Glenn had fun. Surf's up was the cry at the Jersey Shore. Thousands of beachgoers packed the waterfront, looking to catch some rays or cool off in the Atlantic. The hot and somewhat humid weather made the area of Long Branch and Belmar a great place to spend the 4th. Swimming and sunning weren't the only activities on the agenda. Some creative sand sculptures also drew some attention. The scene was much the same at Jones Beach. Authorities estimate about 500,000 flocked to that Long Island beach during the day.
We have some very sad news to report now on this 4th of July night. Hero Fire Captain Scott LaPedra, who was burned over 70% of his body during a June fire rescue, has lost his fight for life after 29 days. The 40-year-old LaPedra, who is married and the father of 4 children, died this evening at 5:30 at Jacoby Hospital. His wife Addie and his parents, along with Mayor Giuliani and the fire commissioner, were at his side. The Staten Island native fell through a floor in early June while fighting a brutal fire in East New York. That blaze also killed Fire Lieutenant James Blackmore and injured 7 others. The men had charged into the building, believing an elderly woman was trapped on the 2nd floor, but she had already escaped.
Scary and memorable moments aboard a cruise ship on its way back from Canada. It lost power for hours, turning the cruise into chaos for some and an unexpected adventure for all. Ellen Marks reports.
It was supposed to be a 5-day relaxing, scenic and luxurious round-trip cruise to Nova Scotia, but the sea breeze didn't exactly breeze back to shore.
We ended up having a harrowing experience.
Elvira and Sal Aliotta of Garden City were among more than 1,000 passengers thrust into an adventure they weren't looking for. A boiler blew Thursday morning, leaving the holiday vacationers stranded at sea for 10 hours without electricity.
The toilets didn't work, there was no air conditioning, the flood in the room. First thing in the morning, you wake up and you step into a puddle.
The kids slept on the bed with their clothes on and life jackets on for 2 nights, with the list in the boat about 35 degrees.
The Coast Guard met the ship off of Montauk yesterday to take 2 injured children to a local hospital. But Premier Cruise Lines, which owns the Sea Breeze, insists no one was ever in any real danger.
Not for a nanosecond.
For many passengers, it wasn't so much the lack of power, but the lack of communication they found so troubling.
It was pretty bad out there. We didn't know what was going on for 2 days straight. We didn't hear from the captain for a solid 2 days.
Still in the thick of the meltdown were those who managed to put a happy face on the ordeal.
I loved it. I wish they would have broke down again.
You're joking.
No, I'm not. It was the best time I've ever had.
Strangers were letting strangers use their cellular phones, and there was a camaraderie. Cabin doors were open, nothing was stolen.
It wasn't planned, so I don't really blame them. It wasn't bad.
They had 4 wonderful days at sea, and the 5th day we gave them $150 back on. We gave them a wonderful party.
And Premier is also offering passengers 75% off on their next cruise. But you couldn't pay Elvira Aliotta to get back on board.
Never again. I don't like being stranded in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. I don't like seeing sharks in the water. I don't like not having my feet planted on solid ground.
In Manhattan, Ellen Marks, WB11 News at 10.
In northeastern Florida, they're hoping the tide may be turning as forecasters say a significant rainstorm may be on the way. A storm now churning in the Caribbean could hit Florida by the middle of next week. Right now, higher humidity, brief showers, and a cool breeze have helped firefighters control the spread of fires. More than 450,000 acres have burned in nearly 2,000 fires since Memorial Day. If the predicted storm does materialize, it would be the first significant rain in more than a month. We'll have more on the situation in Florida just a little bit later in the broadcast.
So how does the weather pan out for our big weekend? Joe Chaffee standing by in the Weather Center with a quick preview. Joe.
First, Howard, I want to point out this is the weather system they're going to be watching in Florida, a strong tropical wave. These are the hit and miss showers that broke out today. We're going to also talk more about this a little later on. We are trying to make it 3 for 3. We have this minor interruption that's moving through tonight with some showers. Will they get out of here for tomorrow? We'll let you know a little later on, along with the complete forecasts coming up. Mary, Howard.
Okay, Joe. Straight ahead on the WB11 News at 10, a break with tradition for some folks in John Gotti country in Queens.
And starting today at long last, a new discount Metro card goes on sale.
Drinking and driving can be deadly, we know, especially this holiday weekend.
And JFK Jr. adds some glitz to this weekend's opening of a yup-scale British clothing store in Manhattan. We'll be right back. Some relief finally may be in sight for northeastern Florida, where 450,000 acres have been destroyed by raging fires. A storm now churning in the Caribbean could bring a drenching rainstorm by the middle of next week. Sean Calebs is live in Flagler County with more. Sean.
Well, Mary, a certain degree of irony this evening. While many communities across the country are celebrating with fireworks, Flagler County is glad to have a quiet, muggy, humid night. The weather cooperated with firefighters today. The strong sea breezes and this high humidity helped knock down flames and also disperse the thick, heavy smoke hanging over this area. It's a holiday weekend they will never forget in Flagler County. All the county's 36,000 residents remain under a mandatory evacuation. Many don't know what they'll find when they are allowed to return home.
The houses would get so hot that the concrete block would suck all the moisture out of the block, and it was just popping them, just blowing the houses apart. It was on fire. It was unbelievable.
After nearly losing control over a series of wildfires Friday, 1,500 firefighters here appear to be gaining the upper hand. At least 40 homes have been burned, but authorities credit quick action with helping prevent serious injuries.
I think it had to do with the rapid evacuation. The state and local officials decided that it was time to go, and they acted on it very rapidly, getting everybody out of the way of the fires.
Crews from California, Minnesota, at least 41 states are here, coping with the heat and long hours. Despite the outpouring of relief help in the region, authorities here still say they need clean underclothes, socks, ice, and water for all the firefighters.
We've got people that have been in our state since Memorial Day fighting these fires, and one of our biggest problems is to try to get them to stop and take some rest. They just want to keep going. They're doing a tremendous job for us.
Despite the help from the legions of firefighters, the damage is adding up. More than $500 million in property damage and the damage to crops and timber. Tomorrow morning around 9 o'clock, the people of Flagler County are going to know if they're going to be allowed to return to their homes after the forced evacuation. Reporting live from Flagler County, I'm Sean Calebs. Marion Howard, back to you.
Okay, Sean, thank you. New Yorkers have something extra to celebrate today. New discounts on subway and bus fares. Today, the new Unlimited Ride Metro card went on sale. The monthly pass costs $63 and it's good for 30 days. A rider who makes one round trip a day for 30 days saves 45 cents a trip. Or based on the full $1.50 fare, rides after the 42nd ride are free. The $17 weekly pass cuts the average fare to $1.22, a savings of 28 cents per trip. The current Metro card, which gives 11 rides for the price of 10, is still available. And city transportation officials have a simple message for drivers who cause gridlock: don't block the box. And they're planning to put some teeth into that message. The New York Post reports authorities are considering installing hidden cameras at intersections in a bid to crack down on people who disobey traffic signals and end up causing congestion. Drivers who block the so-called gridlock box better beware. Last year, 100,000 summonses were issued to drivers who ran red lights and were caught on camera. As you can see, 4th of July celebrations are filled with fireworks. However, there is some danger mixed in with the fun. Luis Schiavone reports.
Fireworks, an Independence Day ritual.
We like the explosive stuff, but you get what you can, you know. The kids really enjoy it. You know, we set them off alongside a lake.
Like the War of Independence, the fireworks recall, it's not without risk. Louis Jones will never forget the 4th of July when he was 15.
Well, a friend of mine and I were out in this front yard, and we were shooting Roman candles off. And we decided to start shooting them off at stop signs and aiming them, and it fired one ball, and the rest of it the back end just ignited straight in my face.
It's a story that to lesser and greater degrees, over 8,000 people in the United States could have told last year. Over half suffered burns, many to the head, eyes, or hands. Over half were under age 15. As Jones learned when he was a teenager, all bets are off when you play with fireworks.
I felt my nose and it wasn't there, and then I really got scared, and then I went and looked in the mirror, and I really got scared.
From innocent-looking sparklers to colorful rockets, the effects can be devastating, and a holiday that might have been spent at a picnic can become an agonizing trip to the hospital.
Pediatric surgeons say the physical and psychological effects of fireworks injuries are sickening, robbing youngsters of eyes, fingers, hands, and self-confidence.
This is one of these bottle rockets, and the children will usually go over and light it, and sometimes they'll look at it or they'll fire it at another child, and the thing will come exploding out, or it won't go off right away, and so they'll go over and look at it, and it'll go off right in their face.
Lessons? Keep children away from fireworks. Maintain a safe distance with water handy at all times. Louis Jones speaks with experience.
Don't be stupid.
Luis Schiavone, Washington.
With the added number of cars on the road this holiday weekend comes the added risk of some of them being operated by drunk drivers. And Dr. Steve Salvador reports consuming even a small amount of alcohol can make driving very risky.
According to the U.S. Department of Transportation, July 4th is the third most traveled holiday of the year. There will be almost twice as many people on the roads this Saturday than usual, making driving conditions hazardous.
Every time there's a holiday weekend, we see an extreme increase in traffic flow. See a lot of backed up traffic. A lot of people are exasperated from sitting in that traffic, and consequently we see a lot of accidents.
Besides road rage and aggressive drivers, there are also drunk drivers to deal with. State troopers say they're ready.
We're especially conscious of the fact that on a holiday weekend you have people who normally aren't drinking who are out and getting behind a wheel, and that combination can be deadly.
Deadly indeed. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, last year 470 people died in motor vehicle accidents on the 4th of July weekend. 228 of those accidents were alcohol related.
Okay, shows that you don't have some alcohol in your system.
You might think one or two drinks won't impair your ability to drive, but according to experts, it doesn't take much.
You could find impairment in people's ability to react quickly at levels that would be equivalent to even a single drink, levels that are, well below what we would call the legal level of 0.1. So to say that somebody's too drunk to drive probably means they've had a single drink.
With many cookouts and parties, the consumption of alcohol this 4th of July is inevitable. If you're going to drink, experts say the decision not to drive should be made early, before you have your first beer.
The more drunk you get, the more empowered you feel. The more empowered you feel, the less you feel like you're impaired, and you feel like you can get behind the wheel of the car.
Experts concede as long as alcohol is associated with celebration, there will always be drunk drivers on the road. Designated drivers and taxi services are a good start, but the solution lies with the individual, not to get behind the wheel in the first place. Dr. Steve Salvatore, New York.
And as we continue tonight on the news at 10, the troubles are back again in at least one Northern Ireland town.
An American patriot is honored for airlifting food and hope overseas so many years ago.
One of the most famous men in America lends his name to a new top-of-the-line store in Midtown when we come back. The troubles have returned to at least one town in Northern Ireland in spite of a peace agreement.
British soldiers are setting up a military camp in County Armagh, bracing for possible violence tomorrow during a Protestant march. The soldiers are carrying machine guns, patrolling the streets in tanks, and installing steel barricades and razor wire along a Catholic road in the town of Portadown. This is where members of the Protestant Orange Order march every year to celebrate their British identity. The march has spawned violence the last couple of years, and this year politicians who recently signed a peace deal are appealing to everyone for order.
The people, the ordinary people in Northern Ireland, have indicated their support for a process of democracy and law. Let's carry on doing that.
Leaders of the newly elected Assembly in Northern Ireland also appealed for calm today. A similar call in Philadelphia from the American who was the chief architect of the peace agreement. Former Senator George Mitchell received the Liberty Medal today for his perseverance in securing the historic peace in Northern Ireland. But he warned against fighting violence with violence, referring to the burning of 10 Catholic churches in Belfast this past Thursday.
To succumb to the temptation to retaliate would give the criminals what they want: escalating sectarian violence and the end of the peace process.
Mitchell is now considered a likely candidate for the Nobel Peace Prize.
The 4th of July is a day that celebrates freedom and patriotism. Tonight, Frank Luciardo has a special story about an American patriot who made a difference 50 years ago and who was honored earlier this week at ceremonies commemorating the Berlin airlift.
6 weeks ago, a vintage World War II military transport plane departed Brooklyn's Floyd Bennett Field for Germany, a trip back in time and a date with history at the 50th anniversary of the Berlin airlift.
When we help someone, like we helped the Berliners, It's the best feeling I ever had, a warm feeling of helping another person.
On board was former Army Air Corps Colonel Gail Halvorsen, who flew over enemy fighter bases in 1948 to bring German civilians badly needed food during the Soviet blockade of Berlin.
The fighters would come up head-on like this and peel off the last minute.
We are now in the cockpit of an old C-54 Skymaster airplane flying about 1,500 feet above Berlin. Now, during the peak of the Berlin airlift some 50 years ago, these planes took off and landed every 30 seconds.
The Germans came in to unload 20,000 pounds of flour, and they looked at me like I was an angel from heaven, and that flour. There were tears in their eyes. They couldn't speak.
I had the remembrance from the Second World War, dropping bombs to Berlin, and it was a wonder for me that the enemies in former time would come to us to bring food and coal and what we need.
Mercedes Wild was one of those young Berliners saved by Colonel Halvorsen's efforts and shared a special destiny with him after Halvorsen got the idea to become the Berlin candy bomber.
I met some children in Berlin at the Tempelhof airport, about 30 at the fence. So I gave them 2 sticks of gum, and they went ballistic. It just seemed like they got $1 million. I promised that the next time I came, over their heads I'd drop enough candies and gum for all of them to have some. They said they would share it. Wheel the wings, the kids would chase that airplane, down would come the parachutes.
But the Berlin candy bombers' flights had not scored any direct hits in Mercedes' backyard, but were just scaring her chickens.
I wrote this letter to Airport Tempelhof, to my chocolate uncle. And I wrote in the letter it might be easy to him to find the garden with the white chicken.
On November 4th of 1948, Halvorsen wrote back.
If I would have time to go around, I would find the garden with the white chicken. But I have no time, therefore. I hope you have a little joy. Many greetings, your chocolate uncle, Gail Halvorsen.
It was not the chocolate, it was hope. It meant somebody out there knew I was here, knew I was alive, knew that somebody cared.
Years later, Gail Halvorsen finally met Mercedes Wild at the same apartment where she has lived since World War II.
It was like a friend, like a father to me, because I lost my father during the Second World War.
Ironically, Mercedes Wild's father was a German Luftwaffe pilot who died in action trying to shoot down American pilots. Halvorsen and Mercedes were reunited again at this week's Berlin airlift ceremonies, and once again, the Berlin candy bomber was tossing candy to little children at the airfield. In Berlin, Germany, Frank Uciardo for the WB11 News at 10.
Nice piece, Frank.
Yeah, very good work.
Still ahead on the WB11 News at 10, a famous journalist reveals the secrets behind landing those big interviews.
An African Arts Festival in Brooklyn adds to the flavor of America's birthday celebration.
Even though we're celebrating our long-ago independence from England today, relations between the U.S. and Great Britain are certainly pleasant now. In fact, this week, the British clothing store that dresses Prince Charles celebrated its recent opening in New York City with a little help from John F. Kennedy Jr. Hi, Mr. Kennedy. I'm Mary Murphy with Channel 11. How are you?
Hi, how are you, Mary Murphy? That's a good Irish name.
John Kennedy, editor of George magazine, came to promote business and politics. And there was actually an Irish theme at this very English shop on Monday night. More than 250 people packing into the richly paneled rooms of Turnbull and Asser to toast the recent Northern Irish Peace Accord.
The whole world was turning upside down. I never thought there'd be an agreement between the Irish and the British. I never thought we'd see peace in Ireland. So I guess it's only fitting we come here to open up a British store.
The guest of honor was former Senator George Mitchell, who brokered the agreement.
And this event came about simply because they needed some help in getting people into the store. They know that George Reader can be a Turnbull and Astor customer, so we got together, we came up with a concept.
And the concept seemed to work, with select guests checking out the distinctive shirts that cost between $145 and $210, blazers averaging about $850.
We're the clothier to Prince Charles, and it's a well-known fact. We make all of his shirts.
The stairways held photos of other famous customers, British actors Michael Caine and Christopher Plummer. We bumped into the actor's son of the late Peter Lawford, who also wore Turnbull and Asser.
It's such a weird thing to think that you're going to be invited to hear George Mitchell speak at a shirt store, quite right.
Even the former senator had a joke about suits in Congress.
A woman reporter yelled at me, "You're just talking to a bunch of empty suits." And now, at long last, it's become literally true.
One thing we noticed on a Turnbull and Asser tag was the fabric of the outfit, but not the price. Republican Georgette Mosbacher, who used to be married to a Secretary of Commerce, liked the mix of fashion and politics.
We're going to leave here and learn something, and I like that.
They're calling it English country gentleman clothes. Are you interested in that kind of look?
If it has a very contemporary feel to it.
Yours truly was surprised to meet a London-born member of Sinn Féin, the political arm of the IRA. Do you find it interesting that you're at an event in one of these renowned British clothier stores?
As an Englishman, I don't find it at all surprising. No.
It was a night to learn and a night to sell, and John Kennedy was gracious as he left. Now, do you wear Turnbull and Asser?
I better now, right?
Okay. A break in holiday tradition in the Ozone Park section of Queens. No fireworks tonight at John Gotti's old stomping grounds. Vanessa Tyler is live in Ozone Park with more on the celebrations there. Vanessa, something different this year.
Well, many people are celebrating the fireworks of the 4th, but not here in Ozone Park, Queens. In fact, the mood here is of a police state. There are cops everywhere, and the people want to know why, especially since the 2 men authorities want are already in jail. Every corner in Ozone Park, on 101st Avenue from about Woodhaven to 110th Street, maybe beyond. Cops, loads of them, standing, watching, waiting.
I think it's a big joke. I mean, it's ridiculous, all these cops and everything. What do they expect, a war? You know what I mean? And it's all the taxpayers' money going into this.
People around here don't like it, but it's the fireworks that has them under fire.
Picking on Ozone Park just because of Gotti. Now, Gotti's in jail, his son's in jail. What more does the mayor want?
For years, Ozone Park's infamous